Hi, I'm Olivia. While I was living abroad, my sister Tiffany, in a move that sliced through my heart like a jagged knife, sold off our family home. Furthermore, she drained the account held in my name, and as if I were a ghost, erased me from the will. My parents, they watched in chilling silence as if I had never even existed. But when I finally came back to the States, I didn't just crave answers. No, I burned for accountability. I wanted to know the depths of their betrayal. Before we dive into the gut-wrenching details of discovering the forged deed and her cold-blooded confession, let us know what time are you listening to this and where are you tuning in from. Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your stories. Sleep eluded me that night. Not even a single minute of rest. I lay in the guest room, if I could still even call it that. Watching the ceiling fan spin slow and steady, oblivious to the earthquake shattering the foundation of our family. The walls hadn't changed, the same floral wallpaper from my grandmother's era. The same chipped drawer knobs I'd helped paint a lifetime ago, when I was just 10 years old. And yet everything felt alien, as if I'd been dropped into a meticulously reconstructed replica of my life. Except in this version, I was the missing piece, the one who never belonged. Around the bleak hour of 5 a.m., I finally sat up, my hair a tangled mess, my mouth as dry as desert sand. I pressed quietly, pulling on the same worn jeans from the day before, and crept down the hallway like an unwelcome guest who had overstayed her welcome by a lifetime. No one else was awake yet, or perhaps they were just masters of deception, pretending to be lost in slumber. I snatched my keys off the hook, the only damn thing still hanging where it always had, and slipped outside into the misty morning haze. The dew on the lawn seeped through my thin socks, chilling me to the bone. I sank into the driver's seat of my car, gripping the steering wheel with both hands, desperately trying to ground myself in something. Anything that I still owned in this rapidly dissolving reality. I didn't drive right away. I needed a destination, a place that didn't reek of rotting memories and shattered trust. Then it hit me. The Buncombe County Clerk's office. If I was truly erased, I needed to see the cold hard proof with my own two eyes. It opened at 8 a.m. I killed time, nursing a pathetic cup of diner coffee, the bitter taste mirroring the bile rising in my throat in a parking lot teeming with retirees, waiting for the Social Security office next door. When the clock finally struck 7:58, I joined the line, a flimsy folder clutched in my hand, like it held more than just the fragments of my shattered sense of belonging. Inside, the sterile tile floors echoed with every agonizing step I took. The clerk behind the thick plexiglass barrier barely glanced up when I slid my request across the counter. I'm looking for the title record on 921 Eastfield. I managed my voice tight with a knot of dread. Her long artificial nails clicked rapidly against the keyboard. Then she frowned, a subtle shift in her expression that sent a fresh wave of icy fear through me. "You're not listed as an owner," she stated flatly. "It's under Tamsin Weller's sole holder. Last update was 14 months ago." My ears rang a deafening silence in the face of her devastating words. I blinked slowly, processing the information as if it were some cruel foreign language. "Is there any indication why I'm not included?" I asked, the tremor in my voice betraying my carefully constructed composure. "It was supposed to be shared inheritance." The clerk tilted her head, her gaze impersonal. "You'd have to check with whoever filed the change. We just show who's on the deed. Do you have a copy of that form?" She gave me a cautious look, then printed the sheet. My hands trembled violently as I reached for it. The signature. It was a twisted, mocking version of mine. The loops were too stiff. The D in Olivia curved the wrong damn way. I'd know that lie anywhere. I stumbled out into the harsh glare of the parking lot, gasping for breath. She forged it, Tiffany, my own sister, forged my signature. This wasn't just a petty grab for money. No, this was a calculated act of erasure. She rewrote legal history to make it appear as if I had willingly walked away from everything, and the most sickening part, my parents hadn't uttered a single word of protest. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I stared at the screen, a battle raging within me over who to call. First instinct was Mom. But then I remembered the vacant look in her eyes the night before, as if I were a stranger she couldn't quite place. So I texted Ethan instead. My rock, the one person who had always seen me clearly. Just 5 words laced with desperation. She forged my name. Help. Imebkad. His call came within seconds, his voice sharp with immediate concern. "Where are you?" he demanded. I told him everything, the clerk's office, the damning signature. "I need everything, Mark," he said urgently. "Deed signature, date of transfer, and if you can get your passport records, I'll start pulling state records on my end." "I'm on it," I choked out the weight of his support. A small comfort in the vast ocean of betrayal. A beat of silence hung between us, then his tone shifted, becoming grave. "Olivia, we might be looking at criminal territory here, not just inheritance disputes. If she forged your name on a property title, especially involving state law, it's serious." "I know." I whispered, the reality of the situation hitting me with the force of a physical blow. "That's why I'm not running this time." I drove back to the house, if I could still bring myself to call it that, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. When I stepped inside, an eerie silence had fallen, the kind that screams volumes. Tiffany was in the kitchen, casually flipping through a stack of mail, as if nothing were amiss. "You're up early," she remarked, without even bothering to turn around, her nonchalance a slap in the face. "I went to the clerk's office," I replied, my voice dangerously steady. "Interesting paperwork filed on the house." She stiffened a barely perceptible movement. "We've been over this." "No," I cut her off, the dam of my carefully controlled emotions beginning to crack. "You've talked, I've been erased. That's not the same as over." Her eyes finally met mine, cold and sharp, like shards of glass. "Olivia, you weren't here, you left. You went off to Europe and stopped checking in. We made decisions. You forged my name." I stated, the accusation hanging heavy in the air. She offered a thin, dismissive smile, casually brushing a strand of her perfectly coiffed hair behind her ear. "Can you prove that?" I held her gaze for a long, agonizing moment. Seeing past the facade, the carefully constructed veneer of innocence, the casual cruelty that had always lurked beneath the surface. "Yes," I said, my voice unwavering. "Yes, I can." A flicker of something, a crack in her composure, registered in her eyes. Just a fleeting moment, but I saw it. Then she turned away, dismissing me like a waitress who had brought the wrong order. "We'll talk later," she said, her tone laced with false finality. "No," I replied, my voice ringing with newfound resolve. "We'll talk again when I bring a lawyer." I retreated to my old room and slammed the door shut, the sound echoing the finality of my decision. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. Instead, I opened my laptop, pulled up a folder labeled Zurich Travel, and began meticulously piecing together my alibi. Each detail a brick in the wall I was building against their deceit. It was a surreal, sickening realization that your own family had plotted your removal like a quiet, bloodless coup. No guns, no violence, just ink and silence. But they had made one fatal mistake. They thought I wouldn't notice. They thought I wouldn't fight. I hadn't slept, and by morning I had already booked an appointment at the county clerk's office, a grim determination hardening my resolve. The woman behind the glass looked up, her expression weary. "You're not on the ownership record anymore." She stated the words, a cold confirmation of my deepest fears. I didn't answer immediately. My throat had constricted, the dryness, a physical manifestation of the shock. Not because I hadn't expected the words, but because hearing them aloud made the betrayal shatteringly real. I leaned against the counter, desperately trying to steady my trembling hands as I tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear. The futile gesture, a pathetic attempt to hold myself together. The clerk, a woman who looked to be in her early 60s, offered a sympathetic gaze, the kind you reserve for people whose bad day transcends spilled coffee or traffic jams. "Is there anything else I can help you with?" she asked gently. "Can I see the title transfer history?" I managed, striving for a composure I didn't feel. She typed something into the computer, a soft clicking sound, then slid a printed page under the thick glass. "This is what's on file. It was updated over a year ago." My eyes scanned the sheet, Tiffany's name starkly listed alone. My own was gone, deleted, as if I were nothing more than an old, unwanted email. At the bottom, a scribbled signature mocked me. Mine, or something close enough to pass a cursory glance, if no one bothered to truly look. The clerk leaned in, her voice hushed with concern. "You might want to talk to a lawyer, sweetheart, especially if you didn't sign that." I nodded, my mouth a tight, grim line. "Yeah, that's the next stop." Back in the oppressive heat of the parking lot, I sank into my car, and just sat there, the silence, amplifying the turmoil within me. My hands trembled uncontrollably around the steering wheel. I wasn't boiling with anger yet. No, I was something colder, a chilling stillness that precedes the breaking point, the moment when the pressure becomes unbearable. My phone buzzed in my lap, an unknown number flashing on the screen, a text message. Check 921 Eastfield RD on Haven Properties. The listing's been up for 3 days. Ask yourself why. My heart lurched, stalled for a terrifying moment, then kicked back into a frantic rhythm. I clicked the link, a sickening premonition solidifying in my gut. The listing was right there in bold font. Charming family estate, motivated seller. A slideshow began to play automatically, each image a fresh stab wound. My grandparents' living room, polished and staged, the fireplace, where we had joyously opened Christmas gifts, now adorned with some sterile designer plant. My bedroom, the sanctuary with the cozy window seat, where I had spent countless hours lost in books, was now blandly labeled as a cozy reading nook. Tiffany hadn't just erased me from the legal documents. She was repackaging my entire childhood, memories, my very identity, like some cheap product on a damn shelf. The listing agent's contact information was at the bottom. Without a second's hesitation, I hit call. "Hello, this is Greg from Haven Properties." A sickeningly cheerful voice answered. "Hi," I managed, forcing a semblance of normalcy into my tone. I saw the listing for 921 Eastfield and was wondering if it's still available. "Ah, yes, just hit the market. Beautiful place. It's been in the same family for generations, but the current owner is moving out of state. And the title's clean," I asked, my voice tight, praying it wouldn't crack under the immense pressure. "Clean as a whistle. We've already run all the title work. No liens, no secondary claims, should close fast. Would you like to schedule a showing?" "No, thank you," I choked out, and hung up before I could unleash the torrent of rage building inside me. I sat in stunned silence, the phrase "clean as it gets" echoing in my mind, a cruel mockery of the tangled web of deceit they had spun Ethan. I had to call Ethan. Instead, I texted, "Found a listing. It's happening behind my back," confirming full title under her name. My screen lit up almost instantly. "Ethan, send me everything. I'll check the transfer docs. There may be forgery." I forwarded the email, the title document, and a damning screenshot of the online listing. My fingers flew across the keyboard, a desperate flurry of action. I wasn't spiraling. No, I was collecting ammunition, preparing for the fight of my life. That night, after a tense, barely touched dinner in a house filled with people who refused to acknowledge the quiet storm, gathering in the corner, I grabbed my coat and keys again. No one bothered to ask where I was going. Driving past the house felt like a descent into someone else's twisted dream. Tiffany's car was in the driveway, and through the brightly lit window, I saw her, a wine glass clutched in her hand, laughing with someone, her face carefree, effortless as if betrayal were just another mundane Tuesday. I didn't knock. Instead, I pulled away, turning off the main road, heading toward the only person who still remembered who I was. Before all of this insidious deceit. Not the beautiful daughter, not the distant sister, but the woman who had learned to build firewalls, both digitally and emotionally. The woman who knew when to stop being polite and start fighting for her damn life. I didn't have a concrete plan yet, but I had a name, I had a trail, and now I had undeniable proof. They wanted to erase me quietly like a stain they could simply scrub away. But I wasn't going quietly anymore. "I'm coming to see you." I texted Ethan, my fingers trembling with a mixture of fear and fierce determination. And this time, I'm bringing everything. Ethan met me at his downtown office, 2 steaming coffees in hand, and a thick file that already had my name scrawled across the tab. He didn't ask how I'd slept. He knew the answer. He simply nodded toward the chair across from his imposing desk, handed me the comforting warmth of the coffee cup, and opened the file. The crisp rustle of paper, a prelude to the legal battle ahead. "There was a formal renunciation of claim filed 13 months ago," he stated, his voice grim, pointing to a document. "Signed in your name, notarized in Asheville." I took the page, my hands shaking so violently the coffee threatened to spill. I read the sterile, official-looking words slowly, as if I were staring at a stranger's confession. Everything looked neat, proper, disturbingly legitimate. I didn't sign this, I said flatly. The cold certainty of her betrayal washing over me again. I was in Switzerland that entire month. Ethan nodded grimly, flipping to the next sheet. The notary listed as real, but if you didn't sign it, we're looking at forgery, plain and simple. I can subpoena the notary's book and signature log. She forged this, I whispered, the magnitude of her deception sinking in. She didn't just want my part. She wanted the records to show I willingly gave it away. The betrayal settled differently now, less like a sharp, sudden punch, and more like a relentless, icy wind seeping into the very marrow of my bones. Later that evening, after hours of meticulously reviewing documents, I sat on the uncomfortable couch in my sterile Airbnb, my laptop perched precariously on my lap, desperately trying to find some semblance of distraction in the endless scroll of the internet. But distraction was a futile endeavor. My hand drifted almost involuntarily to Facebook. There, in a local community thread, my name jumped out a cruel twist of the knife. Olivia left the country years ago. She cut everyone off. Pretty sure she told her mom she didn't even want the house. Well, Tiffany's been the one holding things down. Of course they left it all to her. My heart pounded a furious tattoo against my ribs. I scrolled through more posts, more insidious comments, more carefully crafted replies. This wasn't just idle gossip. No, this was deliberate, controlled, as if someone had planted these poisonous half-truths and watched them bloom in the fertile ground of silence. I messaged my mother, the question burning in my fingertips. Did you tell people I walked away from the inheritance? The agonizing wait for her reply stretched into an eternity. An hour passed, then two. Finally, her response flickered onto the screen, a single devastating line. You weren't here, sweetie. That's what people assume. Tiffany just explained things. Explained, that innocuous word seared me more than any outright lie. I hadn't expected her to fabricate a defense for me, but the fact that she had allowed others to construct this false narrative around my absence, never once correcting their assumptions, felt like another profound betrayal. The next morning, my fingers trembling with a mixture of anger and a desperate need for answers, I called her. She answered on the third ring, her voice soft, almost hesitant. Hello, it's me, I said, the simple words laden with unspoken accusations. Oh, hi, honey. Her voice was gentle, but cautious, as if she didn't know which version of me was on the other end of the line. The dutiful daughter or the inconvenient problem? I need to ask you something, I began, my voice tight with suppressed emotion. Why didn't you tell me what was going on with the house with the will? Why didn't you ask me before removing my name? A long pause stretched over the line, thick with unspoken truths, like a crack widening in a fragile foundation. Then she said gently, I thought Tiffany was keeping you in the loop. She said she'd emailed. She didn't, I stated flatly. The lie hanging heavy between us. Another agonizing silence. We didn't want conflict, Olivia. You've been gone for so long, and Tiffany, she handled it all. Your father and I, we just didn't want drama. Drama. My voice sharpened, the incredulity palpable. You know what I mean, she replied quickly, a defensive edge creeping into her tone. You've always